Hi, folks. Welcome back to Sparkle on Substack with me, Claire Venus. I am so excited today because I've got Anna Rose here from the Burnout Rebellion, and we are going to chat all things burnout and Substack, which is a topic really close to my heart. I was just telling Anna that last week was a really big week for me online. I had a challenge running, I was really busy. I also had headaches. So I really had to pull back and understand not only what was going on for my body, but how I was going to keep showing up for the people that I'd promised to show up for, but also what this meant for the future and what this meant for future challenges. So I will be changing the way that I run challenges because it didn't feel like a sustainable thing for me to have offered because I was feeling a bit unwell. So I'm delighted to be having this conversation. Welcome, Anna. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good, good. It's like we've just been saying, it's so sunny here today. So we're going to record for a little while and then we're both going to hop out into our gardens and get some well-needed vitamin D, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so beautiful down here. I feel super lucky today, so it's going to be great.
Feels like everything's bursting into life, doesn't it, after a long winter? And it's nice to have a bit of consistency rather than running indoors in the rain and then back out in the sun. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, tell us a little bit about your journey with Substack, Anna. Your Substack is called the Burnout Rebellion, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I started on Substack about 18 months ago. And when I first started on Substack, perhaps like many people, I just wanted to write and to share my story. And I think what was really interesting for me was that at that point in my life, I was going through a pivot point. I'd felt sort of misaligned for a while. You know, when you kind of feel everything's fine, but something feels a bit off. And I remember listening to a podcast episode with someone called Laurie Santos. She's a cognitive psychologist from Yale. And she was talking about happiness. And she was sort of defining happiness and saying, you know, we can see happiness as whether you're happy in your life and whether you're happy with your life. And she defined that as, you know, kind of like your day to day, are you happy? And are you happy overall in terms of the goals and where you're headed? And it made me think because I was feeling out of alignment and I was thinking, why do I feel this way? And I would realize that I was happy in my life. You know, the day to day was fine, you know, going to work, coming back. But I felt directionless. And I think that's where the Burnout Rebellion came from, because initially I started writing just in general, but then I realized that actually what I was most passionate about was why are we all so misaligned? Why are we all so burnt out all of the time from everything online in our jobs and where everything's going? Surely there must be a different way to live. So at the same time, I was in a job, but I was doing a part-time master's in psychology, and I ended up specializing in evolutionary psychology. And my history really is a climate change scientist before I became a teacher. And I ended up really focusing in on how we're misaligned with our environment. So the rhythms of the earth, the moons, the tides, the seasons, and how that's affecting us physically. And that's where the Burnout Rebellion came from, really, is I just woke up one morning and I was like, this is what my Substack's going to be. I'm going to share my passion about the biology and the psychology, bring together these ideas that people think are spiritual, but are also scientific as well, to support people in realigning themselves, not just with their purpose, but with their overall position in the world in terms of the nature and its network.
Fascinating. And my husband was just showing me a series of artworks at Kew Gardens. I don't know whether you've seen these, but I'll link them in the show notes for anybody that wants to have a look. But essentially, the large scale artworks that are video screens of the way the tree biology works. Have you seen this?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so what I said to him was, this is how I feel in the world, like as a person, like I can feel that without having to see it as an artwork. Obviously, on a molecular level, that's fascinating, like amazing, like I love all of that. But like I feel that, but we have a lot of nature, like just outside our home, right? And then we also have farmers' fields that we walk the dog round that are sprayed with pesticides, where the earth is cracking and crying, and it feels really weird to walk that land, but that's the land that we have on our doorstep. So I feel like there's this strange juxtaposition for us at the moment in that the idyllic, like family country life is idyllic and it is lovely, but as soon as you sort of go a little bit further outside of your parameter, the bumblebees are a bit sick and dying, and you're trying to sort of be like, how do I save all the bees because they're fine just at my house in the back garden. So yeah, on that level, it can feel enormous, can't it? But it can also feel really rewarding to tend a patch of land outside of your house and do bits in your garden and like really connect to the slowing down and seeing where your breath's at and knowing that you're not going to be online too much because you have made space for that in your day as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I always find it fascinating when I talk to people. People will tell me like how they love the film Avatar, for example. They go, "Oh, isn't this
Oh,
amazing?
yeah,
This deep
yeah.
connection that everyone has, and the big tree and Awa and all of these elements." And I'm like, that as a scientist, I know that that is what life is.
Mm,
It is just super magical. And
mm,
we are fitted within this ecosystem. The way that we have evolved as humans is to fit magically like a jigsaw piece in with all of these other elements. The way that we live today removes us from that. Our physical body has evolved over thousands of years to fit in with that pattern. So not only are we sort of dealing with the day-to-day stresses that we may have or the long-term stresses of our job, our body is feeling out of alignment, out of kilter with what it's naturally supposed to be in.
mm,
And, I have all of these. Yes, we talk about the purpose and alignment of ourselves and where we can go. But I believe that even when we come into alignment that way, yes, we will feel that we can live more in our purpose, but also it will heal the land more.
mm,
And the reason why is because we fit back into that jigsaw piece and we understand it better. We feel so much more connected. We know when it's sick. We know the cycles and how it needs to work and how each little functioning and part of it should be supported. And I think that is the kind of grander ambition of the Burnout Rebellion is that once we get ourselves aligned, how does that then help our mission in terms of the network and the world that we're living in?
mm.
Um, it sounds pretty grand when I say it like that, but I
But
think we're starting at that
yeah,
level.
and starting with where we're at, isn't it? And I have
Mm.
definitely swung the pendulum to be taking too much on, and then back to like, how do I care about this and not see it too much all at once? When you feel sensitively connected, like it is hard, isn't it? It is hard to adjust yourself, but also the systems that it's not like a fight with the systems because I'm not really that way inclined, but sometimes I do feel like, why is everyone making it so difficult for me to be a human, to be a mum, to be a business owner? Like, why is this all so hard? And that's with the internet being as easeful as it is, right? Because obviously it is at a point in our career where it is really easy to create something and have it up for sale or to reach our customers on the other side of the world or whatever we want. So some things are really easy, but because we're still working in quite a lot of outdated systems, and I'm thinking of my daughter's school when I'm telling you about this, they just like to give me a lot of admin to do. And I'm like, I cannot. Like, this is too much for one person. Why are you sending me a text and an email about the same thing? Why do I have to log on and choose our lunches every day? Like, I don't mind what she has. Can't she choose? Can't you choose for it? Oh. So there's like a thing that just feels like because of all the choice, then some people haven't quite caught up with like just because there is all the choice doesn't mean we have to give the people all the choice. So I'm really into this at the minute because I'm really into the attention economy at the minute, both in myself, but also in you guys and like in my clients and how everybody's feeling. And it feels like we are having a gentle rebellion away from too much into like intimate space and like connected space and what feels really good. So less is definitely feeling like it's more for us right now.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that example that you gave of school as well, because I feel like our systems are becoming more frenetic, and
Mm.
frenetic is seen as one of the subtypes of burnout. So there are
Oh,
three
is it?
main
Okay.
subtypes.
Mm.
And I'll go into that in a minute.
Mm.
But schools do seem quite frenetic. All this admin that they send out. I've got a niece, and my sister's getting all of these text messages every single day. About this and say yes to
In
this, say no
capitals
to
as
this.
well. In capitals.
Yeah, I know.
Nobody speaks in capitals. Don't talk to me in capitals. It feels
I
like an
know.
emergency. My
I
system
know.
can't
Almost
take
feels like you're
it.
being shouted at, and you're like, oh, should I have done that earlier? Why am I being sent this? And
Yeah.
and that's why I ended up moving out of the school environment, because I was a teacher for 15 years,
Mm,
and all of our environments, and even the ones that our children are in, are becoming more frenetic. So these three subtypes of burnout that have been defined are frenetic, sort of underachieving and worn out. And I find it fascinating because frenetic is what most of us think burnout is, which is we're really into our work and we're adding more and more on and we're doing more and more, responding to comments and everything. And we really want to do a good job. And that's where we get burnt out and we're just giving more than what we're able to give.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also understimulated. If you're in a job or a position or something that you're doing where you are just not intellectually stimulated whatsoever, you might be doing the job day to day, you might be doing the tasks, you might be doing what you're supposed to be doing, but it's just not sparking you. That's another form of burnout that can be formed. And then there's the worn out, and the worn out is more to do with you don't feel like you have an impact on your outcome, you have an
Okay.
impact on your results. And I was thinking about this morning when we was on the Sparkle call, and about how we were talking about sort of paid subscribers and people feeling like, oh, I'm doing this, then my paid subscriptions aren't going up, and what's happening. And I can see that happening to people that are on Substack as well, getting worn out by kind of adding more and more and more, but really concerned that they're not having an impact on the outcome or seeing their subscribers going up and down. And then what you tend to get with that kind of burnout is more what we see as sort of a passive response to stress, where people start not putting in the same effort or the same passion as what they were before. Because they're like, well, whatever I do, I'm not getting the results that I want. And I think that's pretty interesting from a Substack point of view as well.
It really is, and having had like some relatively harsh feedback over the last few years from strangers on the internet, when you break down a piece of feedback, so I did this morning, so it was a big long paragraph from a subscriber that had decided to leave, and that's absolutely fine. And the feedback was, there's too much, I don't know where to start. And it was like, also, you were recommended from this person, but actually, I feel I've wasted my money. Like in the real world, if this person had have reached out and been like, Claire, I'm totally lost. I'm really overwhelmed. Like, I can see you've got loads, but like, where's a good place to start? Or even asked that in the chat or felt invited to come along to a call. So it's all of these presumptions that my content is working. And it's not working for everyone. It didn't work for this person. And so obviously I reached out and like I wanted to address those concerns. But before I reached out, I had to process that, right? As a human receiving quite negative feedback from another human, someone that wasn't happy. And it's fine for people to be unhappy, but as humans and not machines, we're gonna take that on. Like we want to solve that person's problem. We want to support that person. We want that person to have had a good experience in our space. And people are bringing whatever they bring to our spaces. So everyone's having an individualized experience. And as we're building, if we are space holding, if we are running a community, those individualized experiences en masse are exhausting. Because how on earth can you hold multiple different types of individual people? Like, it's not like you can be like, oh, well, there's this type of person in my membership. Like, there's a little bit of that, but there's also people who are just highly human and highly
Mm.
messy and, all of the
Yeah.
things. So it's super interesting to be able to learn from business owners that are further down the line and have done some of this work, business owners that have a step in between themselves and the customers, and also just to be able to, at a vibrational level, allow myself to witness this person because I have got the strength for that. I can say, I'm really sorry that you're unhappy. Let me help you. Let me support you with this. Do you want a refund? Like I can do, that's all possible and it's all within my bandwidth. So it is interesting. But if, say, it was a day where multiple people of that type had decided that they were upset and lost and confused, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know whether I would have just shut the laptop and be like, do you know what? I'm going to the spa because I just can't anymore. Like, I don't, there's
Yeah.
only so much we can process online. And I've
Mm.
seen this with other creators on Instagram and, when things have really taken off there, there's definitely a vibrance and a swell of something that works, and then there's a mastery, and then there's a kind of stepping back from how on earth do I engage with that many people? It's impossible. So I
Yeah.
think even in our bodies, and this is what we were talking about this morning, we're almost holding ourselves back because it's like that feels terrifying. Like, how on earth do I
Mm.
keep myself safe as a human being in the world that also has a life and caring responsibilities or whatever else we're doing, and know that online has this ferocious energy around it. It's wild.
Yeah. And I think what's really interesting about what you're saying there is it's sort of a different form of burnout that people are used to, because
Mm,
say in your day-to-day job you're working 9 to 5 and you're getting all these different things in that you need to do. That's one type. But actually working in a business, customer facing, and then also the fact that when we're working on a Substack, it is a very human business.
mm,
People are there for a reason, and various different things are cropping up for everybody every single day. And then actually, it's the taking on of that emotion
mhm,
as opposed to the workload itself, perhaps the emotion of all of these different people and how that affects you and your own ability to be able to respond to that. And
mm,
all of those things can impact on whether you're going to become worn out or whether you're going to become frenetic in terms of the work, because you can't
mm.
possibly respond to absolutely everybody. That
No.
otherwise you will be in the frenetic burnout. Then if you feel like what you're doing isn't having an impact, then you could end up feeling worn out. And then we need to think about, exactly as you were talking about, how are you protecting your energy
Mm,
and thinking about what it is that you could give. And I think what's really interesting about what I feel are some of the most successful people on Substack is that they are incredibly human and incredibly giving. And they're like, just ask me a question. You
mm.
know, it's totally fine. Just let me know, and then let's see if we can solve it.
Yeah, absolutely. That human element and the blend of the personal and the professional. So I think we are blending what works in the online business world where people are a little bit untouchable. Like we couldn't necessarily send them a DM on Substack, Instagram, sorry. If we did email them, it would be a member of their team that got back to us. So we've got that as a kind of model, but then we're like in the trenches and we're all colleagues together and we're all in each other's spaces and we're having a wonderful time being humans and sharing the human experience of what it is to be building, whilst also holding ourselves in this dynamic with other people that are our kind of customers, paid subscribers, or just free subscribers as well. There's quite a lot that can happen in the space of a post doing really well, a note going viral, and that is just people en masse, isn't it? It's not the kind of client customer relationship there. It's just people en masse on the internet. And I know you've had some experience of that, and I know you've had a couple of notes, maybe more now, done, we say quite well. They've got quite well, they've popped off.
Yeah.
And then you've had that experience of that wave of humans who are all looking at your work at the same time. What's that felt like? And was there ever a point when you were a bit concerned for yourself or worried, or did it all feel okay because of the knowledge that you have?
Yeah, I mean, such a great question, because I think your initial response when anything goes viral or you get more attention than what you're previously used to, your first reaction is, how exciting. Isn't
Mm,
this amazing? This idea, this dream that I've had that I'm working on, it's really touching people, and isn't this brilliant? And then when it goes from something small to something bigger quite quickly, you then thinking, well, and people share quite personal stories, particularly when it really touches people. They will share quite personal stories, and then you feel this responsibility to respond to people because they have felt that there's been that connection with you. And I think I've been lucky in the sense that the notes or the works that I've had that have gone viral because they're in line with what it is that I'm doing, with my values and who I am. And one of them I think was a quote that was related to what I was doing, and something else was just about the fact that I was 38 and starting my life over and quitting my job and all of that kind of thing. And that was really wonderful to be able to find people that were my people, because
mm,
I think one of my notes when it went viral, I got loads of extra subscribers. And then over time, as many people talk about, they just ticked away as I posted something or whatever, because they were like, oh,
mm,
I didn't quite know it was about this. And
mhm.
then they kind of disappeared. But then with another note, it was like, oh, I put it in such a way that it meant that people stayed with me. And that was really
Mm,
brilliant. But I did have a couple of, do we call them trolls? I did have a couple of trolls that were just like, I think one was about women in particular, because I had a quote that was talking about women. And I had a few trolls that were sort of being quite derogative about women. And then it was like, oh, I haven't really thought through how I'm going to respond to this.
Mm.
And then you do feel unsafe in your emotional body. You know that you're
Mm-hmm.
safe physically
Mm-hmm.
because these people don't know who I am or whatever.
Mm.
But in your emotional body, you feel attacked in some way. And
Mm.
also, you're reminded that the world isn't as rosy as what you want it to be. Substack is a very rosy place in many ways,
Mm-hmm.
but we've seen lots of instances where it hasn't been. And I think my answer to that ended up being just block and forget.
Yeah, yeah, very smart. And it's also what I do as well. I mean, I think, sometimes people are very persistent. Like I've got this guy that'll like resubscribe and then his out of office pushes his Substack URL to my email inbox. So my email inbox is like a place that I do my work, and I'm like, oh, this again. Like how, so I
Yeah.
have to go in and unsubscribe him. I'm like, what is going on here? But then at the same time, like me and a few friends have had stuff where people have like picked out something that we're saying and like really torn it down. Like, you call this a job, you think that you're doing work, like this is like ridiculous, or more personal stuff. It's really odd, and you're just like, okay, fine, but because we've all had the same messages, it's just someone who is literally making it their life's work to just go and try and tear women on the internet down for having a voice, and that's scary and interesting to me. I'm just a bit like, oh, okay, you're there then, okay.
Yeah.
But actually, now it doesn't really go anywhere. It's just like, oh, okay, like, okay. And then, like you say, mute and block and move on. And I think if someone, and this is why I tell people the story, because I think if someone had said to me, even with X number of subscribers, you might get some negative attention, I probably would have held myself back. And so it can happen with a few hundred subscribers, it can happen with a few thousand. It just if someone decides, to sort of go and do a thing. And actually, I think if you know how to sort of almost skim read, like just do the Teflon thing and be like, okay, that's
Yeah.
not for me today, off you pop.
Yeah.
And then refocus the energy on the really beautiful words and exchanges you're having after you've made yourself feel steady and safe. I do think it's okay, but I don't ever think it'll be 100% okay because how can it? Like it is online, but it is real. It feels real. It is real. Like it's weird. So yeah, we have to kind of hold ourselves in that, don't we? And take care of ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and that's the thing when your job becomes everything online,
Mm,
is you are open to more people than you ever were before that are
yeah.
trying to access you and access your energy. And I think I'm thinking of a few now where I've realized I've had a few DMs from people, just sort of some people send me DMs and just share something from their Substack or share their Substack. And I have one person that literally does it every week. They just share it to me, but there's nothing negative. If I don't, I never respond, but there's nothing negative there.
Mm,
But then there's other people, they will message and then I'll get another message saying, why haven't you responded to me?
okay.
And, you're starting to realize, okay, it's a different set of boundaries you need to have online to support with
Mm,
your own
oh yeah.
well-being in
Mm,
order to be able to deal with that and to be okay with the fact that you're like, it's okay that actually I won't have you in my community.
yeah.
This is wasn't isn't what the community is about.
Yeah, that's not what it's about. And I do say to everybody, I think it is very savvy to have DMs set to paid only. Reason being, if somebody really wants to get in touch with you, they'll find a way. Like we're very accessible. People can find our email addresses, they can reply to a Substack email, they can find us on Instagram or LinkedIn or wherever other place. So for me, because there are a few opportunists in the DMs in Substack, I just have them set to paid only, and you don't get anything then. So
Yeah.
I just think it's one less thing to process, when you're talking about your processing bandwidth and that impacting on kind of burnout or how you feel. I do think it is savvy to do, and I do recommend that to everyone. I think it's just something so simple because, yeah, I think anybody else, people will know that we're approachable and will just find our email, and people do all the time with me, and it's like a lovely email, so that's that's a nice
Yeah.
thing. I don't have to like process that. I'm just like, oh, that's a lovely email. Let's have a read. So, yeah, I think those kind of shards and those spikes do have an effect on our nervous system. And then we've got to think about how we're resetting and sort of feeling safe in the world with it all, aren't we?
Yeah.
There's a few things like that. Like sometimes the tech as well. Like sometimes with tech, I'm a bit like, oh, I just hope it doesn't let me down. Like there's a couple of glitches last week in my big week, and I was like, I thought I'd recorded like a whole black screen, and it turned out it was only 2 minutes of black screen, but that never ever happens. And then you realize, but of course it can happen. So you almost need to build in the buffer time for if anything like that happens. I thought I was going to have to like re-record the whole series for last week. So that can be equally as like, oh, I can't do that because I haven't got time and I haven't got any space and the kids are due back. But actually, maybe something for me is about just slowing down, just,
Yeah.
slowing down and being like, okay, we're just going to do this over 2 days instead of in one day. That's all.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I try to support people with is to come back to the real basics of what are your values? Are you serving those values? And if you're serving those values,
Mm.
then it's fine. So for
Hmm.
me, I've really narrowed down my values to two. I used to have like, when you first get asked
Oh,
what your
got
values,
17 values.
yeah,
Yes.
you're like, oh, I have all this big long list. But now I know that my two are courage and connection. So
Nice.
as long as I'm always showing up courageously and as long as I'm always connecting with people,
Hmm.
then I've done my job.
Hmm.
And if things fall by the wayside, then so be it. But as long as I can show up in that way, and I think courage is one of the really important things I've found on Substack is that you just have to be courageous every single day
Mm.
because for me, I lost my father this year, and it's really, and this is how it all started, really, was when he first got ill. I was rethinking my life and thinking about what was happening with it. And if we're not courageous now, when are we going to be courageous?
Mm. Hmm.
And I think one of the biggest things that's come up in the community is I don't feel ready to quit my job. I don't feel ready to completely change my life. And I think one of the things that I always share is, what is your smallest courageous act that you can do? Be a kitten until your lion is ready. If you're not
Mm.
ready to be running out there and saying, this is what I'm doing, I'm moving here, I'm doing this, what is your smallest act that you could do today? And it might just be showing up on Substack. It might be going to a live call that you're feeling a bit nervous about, but actually you're going to go along to it. And that's what you're going to do. And, I think courage becomes something that's really important in everything, even the stuff that we're talking about, boundaries, being courageous enough to
Mm.
have your own boundaries in place and
Hmm.
hold them up.
Hmm. And I can see why you've grown the way that you have because of that. So it's
Mhm.
very heartwarming for me to hear you speak because the energetics, I always speak about the energetics of the way we are and the way we do things and the way that we feel because between the energetics and the vision, we get there. Like that's the science, like for me, and I don't even know if it's science. It probably
Yeah.
is science, It's like if we're expansive enough to see that we can get to the vision, the bits in between are just those courageous steps. Well, not just, they are courageous steps, and that's beautiful. So, yeah, it's very heartwarming for me to hear you speak about that, Anna. I wonder if you could speak to what your Substack is now, because I know you've got the podcast and I've listened to a couple of episodes and they've been gorgeous. I listened to you and Nicola speak on when I was on the plane, actually. I downloaded it for my plane journey back from holiday, and my daughter was asleep in my arms, and I was just like, so inspired. I just wanted my laptop straight away, but I was like writing notes in my phone and it was just such a vibrant conversation. It was beautiful. So I know you've got that, and then I know you are holding space for community as well. So just tell us how it all breaks down and what you've done with it since you started.
Yeah, so the Burnout Rebellion is a place for people that are at a pivot point in their life. And it's for people that are looking for an opportunity to realign. And when I say that, what I mean is this deep realignment. You're feeling sort of uncomfortable or something's not right in your life, and you're ready for this sort of bigger change in your life to really live out your purpose. So, what the Burnout Rebellion offers is my own expertise. So, my own expertise is I'm an evolutionary psychologist. So, that is my main trade. I'm a researcher in that. So, what I offer is tutorials and Kickstarter challenges whereby you can reconnect not just with yourself, but also with nature and the cycles and your values and all of your realignment so that you can become closer to your own rebellion. I support you with the kitten moves and also with the lion moves as well. But I think the other aspect of it is I realized that my expertise around evolutionary psychology specifically and psychology specifically, but there are other roadblocks to being courageous. There are other roadblocks to connecting, to starting your rebellion. So now within the community, I'm inviting experts in. So I have for my free subscribers, I've got like lives where I'm meeting up with different experts that are about joy, about courage, about movement, about the 1% changes that you can do every single day that's going to support you, where we have those in-depth conversations. And then coming up in the paid subscription, I'm having these masterclasses. Some are run by me, some are run by me and somebody else, where we can really support people in unblocking themselves to their purpose and what it is that they want to be doing.
It sounds really, really beautiful. And I love the connection that you have there, that it's an invitation to, yes, show up weekly if people want, and there are those sorts of elements, but also if someone's listening and just needs to go on like a Burnout Rebellion retreat, it feels like they could just deep dive and give themselves like a couple of weeks off work or whatever that looks like and just be in that space and just kind of listen and walk through and kind of respond to some of the prompts and stuff in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a beautiful way of putting it because I think that's what's happening with the podcast as well. So the podcast sits alongside it, and the whole idea behind the podcast was to be chatting with inspirational people that are just like me and you that have made decisions about what we want to do with our lives and our businesses and talk to them about their lowest points when they were at burnout, how they felt, why they got there, and some people are burning out in their careers, but also people are feeling burnout as parents, in their relationships because of grief. And then talking about how they've changed their lives and what it was that they did and what they've ended up doing. So that those podcast episodes work alongside it as inspiration. Because sometimes, we hear all these big stories on all these big podcasts with various different celebrities, etc., which are all
Mm.
brilliant, but sometimes you want somebody that you can relate to that has done exactly the same thing as you, and you want to be inspired by them. So if somebody is like, yeah, I just want to take some time off. Let me just dive in. There is no, you could just pick up a live, watch one of those, or you could listen to the podcast, or you could just start going into some of the articles that are about connection and about how
Mm.
we're connected so much more to a wider network and the magic that's already within us. And that's the kind of space that I'm trying to create, really, like a magical, courageous, connected space for people to come and to go, yeah, this is possible. I want to
Mm.
do something different. I feel there's something different within me. What can I do?
Mm. I really love that. And I've been thinking a lot recently about my own permission slips to people because you realize, because of the way society is and because of the way the working world's been, people forget to give themselves permission. So you might have noticed it this morning. Like I always lead in with like, get yourself a drink. Have you got your notebook? Are you comfortable? Do you want to get a drink? Because I noticed that people, yeah, will be like, "Oh, I'm on," and that's me. And it's like, n no, like you can be on, your camera can be off, you can pop to the loo, you can come back again, you can get a bit lost, leave and watch the replay. Like, I just really feel like we've forgotten how to just give ourselves permission to show up in the way that we want to show up that day, right? So sometimes, so like last night, I had the launch for my course, Your Beautiful Digital Substack magazine, and it was gorgeous. There was three of us online, and I absolutely loved it. And right the way up to, to going online, I didn't know how many people were going to come. And it's always this weird dance because with Sparkle, I know it's around about 20 to 30 people and it's lovely. But the feedback was that they really enjoyed being in that intimate group. And I realized that for the first time, I could hold all three of them equally in a space, whereas usually I'm thinking, okay, like 10 people times 60 minutes, trying to work it through and trying to make it fair and trying to work things out. And it's much faster a lot of the time than I can process. So it was a
Mm,
beautiful permission slip for me to be like, oh, it's just like we're in a room together because like three's like a magic number, if you just
yeah.
got three people to hold as the space holder. Um, so I do think there's this really interesting pivot now, and I've seen it in some really big online entrepreneurs and the way that they're delivering, where they're trying to bring our attention back because they've got so many of us on. We're a bit like, well, I sort of wandered off here. So it's like a
Mm.
sliding scale of like, there's so many people on, I'm just going to wander off because I'm only one person and they won't know, versus, oh, this really re feels really nice to be here live, versus actually my energy doesn't feel good to be plugged in live today. I'm going to watch the replay. I'll get a piece of cake. I'll get my notebook. I'll make it really cozy. And I think we're just really, after 5 years of being online on Zoom, realizing that some of this stuff can be true, for us. Like we can choose.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I love what you say about intimate spaces and the safety that that can
Mm,
create.
hmm
And
hmm
the magical portal of having a small group of people and the transformation that can happen in such a short period of time when
hmm
you're able to give people more attention than if you were in a big room
Yeah.
of hundreds on Zoom
Mm,
is just phenomenal. And I think that is the potential of the spaces that we hold in Substack, and is definitely the potential that I, because I've always found that those conversations where you start to know people a bit more deeply, you can
mm,
really understand and support them with different elements of their journey. And I just think
mm,
that it's so beautiful that people can turn up the way that they want to. And I always endeavor to make it feel as if it's a safe space. You don't have to turn up to everything. You don't have to read everything that I send you. You don't have
mm.
to watch every live. You don't have to even, resonate with everything that I'm writing. But if I'm providing you with light bulb moments or things that you're like, actually, I want to dive into that a bit deeper, or I want to do this, then that makes me happy. And I feel like my job there is done.
And it sounds like you're having a beautiful time. I really wanted to ask you about ambition for the Burnout Rebellion on Substack. So, because I know that you are ambitious and because people are fascinated with other people's ambition, now that you've been building for 18 months, do you see a place that you want to get to? Do you have a numerical value to that? Do you have an income generation target for that? Do you know how long you want to be on Substack? I know those are all really big questions, but I just wonder how some of that stuff's sitting with you, Anna.
Yeah, I mean, this feeds really nicely into the day that I've got planned tomorrow, because tomorrow I've just set aside like a vision and strategy day, and I'm going to just be offline and just kind of
Nice.
doing lots of different things. But it's come up quite a lot because initially I was thinking, I would love to have a solid income from the work that I do on Substack, but there are many elements to who I am as a person. So I'm writing a book, I'm doing research, I'm doing all of these different things. So for me, I am really keen to build as a big community as possible because I see the Burnout Rebellion as a movement. So for me, I had at the beginning of the year, I had an initial target that by my birthday, which is the 26th of May, that I wanted to have a certain number of subscribers. I wanted to have 5,000.
Nice.
But it's slightly changed me now is that I want to make sure that whoever I have is going to be a committed community and a community that want change.
Mm,
But from a business perspective, I do want to be able to fund this completely, fund my
mm,
time completely.
mhm,
I would have, if I could be bringing in, £2,000 a month from my
mhm,
Substack, to me, that would be perfect because I'm also running. So there's another company offline, which is called The Portal, where I'm going to be holding very specific courses that are offline from Substack that
mm,
all resonate with the Burnout Rebellion, but are much deeper and will go
mhm,
over a period of 6 weeks and sort of super intimate. So it would work alongside that. So I feel that that's what I could hold is £2,000 a month. I want to make it accessible as much as possible. And I want to continue offering the level that I'm offering, which is
mhm.
tutorials once a month and the lives and Kickstarter challenges 4 times a year. And
Beau-
that's what I'd aim
Beautiful.
for.
And it's quite nice as a menu for people to choose from. So we touched on this a little bit in the call this morning, but quite often, Substack can be the gateway to people discovering us, to discovering our work, but
Mm.
that doesn't necessarily mean that paying for our Substacks is the best route for them. It could be they do a course first and then circle back and become members or paid subscribers. It could be that they're a paid subscriber for a year before they take a course. So it's a really interesting dance to try and hold somebody and what they need, and also to know that Substack sometimes isn't that. They don't want more noise, especially not if they're feeling like frayed and on the edge of burnout anyway. They might sort of need to hold themselves more gently. So I think that's really smart, and that's definitely what I found with Sparkle. And it was always my vision for the work that I was doing around creativity, well-being, scaling sustainably within your business to fit with the membership that was Sparkle on Substack. But it was always supposed to be a wraparound. So Sparkle for me was always like, if that could be a third of my income and I can continue that trajectory, that feels really good. And also, selling subscriptions are not as easy as selling a thing, like a physical ebook or a physical course or a webinar or something like that. So I think what you're doing is incredible. I think for the 5,000, are you around 3,000-ish now?
3.5 I'm on at the moment, 3.5.
So you've got 1,500 to go until the 26th of May. So what I'd be doing is going really hard on recommendations. So asking your community, and there's a link that you can use. Mika figured it out. So I've shared it before and I can share it again, but it basically makes it really easy because you can put it on a button. So when people press the button, they will get to the recommendations and being able to add you there. So that's going to do some of the work for you. And all you need to do is remind people to press that button and explain to them what it means. Like it's all good of saying, oh, recommendations, recommend my Substack. And they're like, yeah, I recommended it. I told someone last week. No, there's a button. Here it is. Press it here. Do it again. So that one. And then also with your community that you have that are paying, asking if they can provide you with really deep testimonials about their experience, especially in the transformations and the nurturing that they've felt. And then reflect those back to other people. I was chatting about it last week in the Joyful Growth to Bestseller Challenge around the way that we take care of our paid subscribers and honor what they do for us, because they do help us build the financial side. And so quite often I'll re-advertise. So like maybe 2, 3 times a year, I'll re-advertise the Bring a Friend for free. And not tons of people take it up, but it's really great for accountability because somebody reaches out to somebody else and works the money piece out themselves. And then they are the parent. That's what it's called, parent sub. And then they bring their friend in. And in terms of reciprocity, accountability, and people going, yes, we're going to do this together, we'll be okay. That's a really good fit with your content.
Yeah, that's such a great idea. I
Well,
mean,
I'm full of
it's
them,
not,
Anna. I've got
I know,
loads of them.
honestly, from this morning and from now, I've just got pages,
Yeah.
pages that I'm just working through. It's just brilliant.
Yeah, that's good. And we've got time. That's the other thing I always say, because we can be like, oh, like I want to do it in this way now, but I think it's nice to focus on growth and then growth of paid and know that both things will run for us. But if we give the focus to one or the other, it stops us getting in knots around things. So we'll always serve our free subscribers, of course we will, but sometimes we just need to give a bit of focus to the income and how that's going to work for us and not take our eye off the ball. And also, the first priority for everyone should be the people that are already there, because everybody's having a different and unique experience of already being there. Some people are brand new to the platform and it's got confusing for them and they're not sure what notes is. And this is just regular people, not people that are coming to build Substack. So in a way, it's great to be able to like hold people in the Substack experience as well as holding them in our unique kind of community and space that we've built as well.
Absolutely. And, it really excites me to be able to sort of grow the community in that way where they feel held and they feel they know exactly where it is that they can go. And I think what was really interesting for me in terms of my growth is, I was having a really sharp increase in growth and I
Mm,
got to 3.5, I think, at the end of February.
nice.
And then it kind of just plateaued out for a bit. And then, as things go, when I lost my father, I wasn't online for about a month and I
Mm,
sort of lost a certain number. And then I've kind of come back up to 3.5 now. And I'm like, this ideal goal of 5,000 that I had in my head may not happen, but that's okay. I think
mm,
I'm super excited about the Kickstarter challenge in particular because that's going to be for people that are like, I don't know where to start with all this. I know I'm ready for a rebellion, but I just don't know where to start. And then that
Mm,
will be like 7 days, and it's around the summer solstice as well.
gorgeous.
So all of the challenges around like the summer solstice and the equinoxes, and I think it's just such a great time. And you know, I have such a beautiful community, and I just feel like it's a fantastic opportunity for us to really dive in deep together at that
Mm.
particular time and go, right, okay, we've been here for a while together. Let's go. What is it that we can do that we can start moving forward?
Gorgeous. And I think the capacity that Substack gives us with sharing images can be really helpful to build intimacy. You'll have seen me do that in other ways, but I think people really miss this, that in chat we can share photos. So if that fits at all, I don't know how your Kickstarter challenges work, but it could be that somebody else's gentle rebellion photograph gives them permission to do the exact same thing, because they haven't got the capacity to think of what theirs might be or whatever. So I did notice a lot more permission slips being granted in my communities when I kind of kickstarted the photo side of things. It's been really beautiful to do. So yeah, definitely
Mm.
have a think about that. Well, beautiful, Anna. So if people head to Substack, what should they type in to find you? Will it come up under the Burnout Rebellion or is it under your name?
Yeah, it'll be under the Burnout Rebellion. So the burnoutrebellion.substack.com, and then I'm at the Burnout Rebellion.
Gorgeous. And then we've got your podcast as well, which is on all of the platforms, isn't it? So people could be listening in Apple or Spotify and they can find it under the same name. Well, thank you so much, Anna.
No, you're welcome. I've really enjoyed it.
It's been really nice, and I'm really excited to deep dive into some of your articles about this evolutionary psychology because I feel very tethered to that as a concept, but I don't feel I've ever read that much about it. So I think I'll really enjoy it. So watch out, a Sunday is coming soon. There'll be lots of little hearts appearing on your content.
I can't wait.
Thanks, Anna. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.